The first thing I'd have them look at is what are their systems that they have in place right now, because those systems are honestly going to have to change as they scale. What got you to where you are today is not what's going to get you to that next level in a year or 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
And so it's really important that you're looking ahead before you've won all that work and trying to say, like, what systems do I need to have in place ahead of time to be successful?
Hey, you're listening to Cracking the Code, the podcast for leaders building and growing service-based businesses. If you are in legal or medical or financial services, if you have letters behind your name that qualify you to do what you do for a living, you are in the right place. I am your host, Rob Riggs, here to bring you intel and access that are designed to decode how technology can be and should be impacting your growth. All right, let's get into it. Okay, welcome back to Cracking the Code. Today, we are joined by Kris Grey, a fractional director of project management oversight with over 20 years of experience running capital construction projects, everything from schools to libraries to zoo exhibits and other kinds of attractions. Kris, thanks so much for being on today. Why don't you take a second to dive deeper into who you are and why you do what you do for those who may not know you?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today for our conversation.
Awesome.
So yeah, fractional director of project management oversight, not a title that's super common in the world right now.
Right.
But what that essentially means is I dig deep with companies to help them deliver better projects, protect their margins, and reduce risk. And so we're plugging in as a fractional director because oftentimes we're trying to help companies bridge the gap between where they are today, winning work, potentially getting by off of what we call project management heroics, the individual efforts of maybe one, maybe two good employees that they have right now, and where they want to be, which is winning enough work that they can kind of step away from the business and let it grow, add some more employees, and ultimately have kind of this thriving ecosystem around their brand. It's hard to get there though. In the meantime, do you hire a full-time executive? Do you not? Do you spend the $200K to get somebody in? It can be kind of a daunting task and a big challenge. And so I come in cheaper, faster, and help them bridge that gap between where they are today and where they want to be in the future.
Sure. Okay, cool. So it's a lengthy title. What is the difference between what you do and like a fractional project manager?
So a fractional project manager is also a great tool for somebody to use, but they are going to be in the weeds on specific projects. They're going to be actually handling your day-to-day on the projects. Where I come in is I'm at the more strategic director level, trying to make sure that the staff that they have the tools that they need to be successful, be more efficient, and at the end of the day, deliver better projects. What they might have right now is the owner, the CEO, or somebody very high level, maybe a chief operating officer, is probably monitoring all of their project managers right now. And that's taking up a lot of their time in the day, trying to be in the day-to-day, getting the project updates and getting the information. I help, again, bridge that gap and say, like, look, you can step away from this. I can come in and help you get the updates and the information you need by building systems that allow you to log in and just see what the project statuses are and give you sort of a red, amber, green reporting system that allows the higher level executives to spend their time where they need to be on the strategic initiatives, not the day to day.
So essentially boiling out to the high level overview, kind of where things are in terms of on a project level, but within a project, kind of here's this swim lane, and here's where where the risks are, right? If I'm understanding you correctly, cool. Excellent. So I'd love to dig into your background just a bit because I think it's fun. But are you generally managing construction projects or massive capital infusion?
Yeah, that's where my background is. A lot of the principles that I plug in with companies, they're widely applicable to different industries. Primarily like IT project management is very similar to how construction project management goes. They use a lot of the same terms and key performance indicators and all that kind of stuff. But my personal background is definitely in construction. I got my first construction job at the age of 2. I was assigned to try to hammer in a particular nail while we were building our house in my hometown, and there's a picture of me trying to do it, and I don't think I lasted very long on that particular project,
Well,
but
you
I
were
grew
built
up
for
in
me.
construction.
So yeah, no worries. Um, cool. So, some of some of your background is pretty innovative projects. When I think of construction, I'm thinking of home subdivisions or commercial building, office buildings, that sort of thing. But you've done some things outside the norm, a little bit more unique, like zoos and medical and some of those kinds of directions that are a bit off the beaten path. Is there anything that jumps out to you as kind of like this was super unique and super fun that would make for a good story?
So the probably the most unique thing that I've done is working on zoo exhibits. That is kind of the pinnacle of everything that I've learned up until that point. Was because it's a really different blend of creativeness that you have to put these things together because they're themed attractions. You've got animals that you have to take care of according to certain standards, but also they're just trying to mimic as close as you can to that natural environment. But then you have the guest interaction of like, how's the guest going to interface with this thing that we're building, and like, what are they learning and taking home from it? So there's this whole educational and what we call interpretive side of things. it
Yeah.
it really blends like all of the different things together that I've picked up from, schools, libraries, fire stations, and everything else that I've done up until that point. And it's been a lot of fun. My background is kind of eclectic. I've got the construction background, obviously, in project management and running projects, but my educational background is actually I thought I was going to be a zookeeper at one point, and
Nice.
that was actually the direction I was headed in school. Ended up kind of switching gears at the last minute, so I've got a degree in economics with minors in biology and music, and then I've got an MBA and my project management professional certification. So the zoo exhibit really kind of takes all of that and blends it together in this really unique way that I just found like, so serendipitous that it's like,
Yeah.
I can't believe like I ended up here doing this with everything that I've done. But in a way, when you look back, it's kind of like, I guess it kind of makes sense. Like it worked out the way that, it was supposed to.
Yeah. It's the quintfecta, if you will, of all the different
Yeah.
areas of study. It's so fun. Um, so you kind of alluded to this, but what you do, what project management does, is applicable to so many different areas. So my team being on the tech side, the marketing side, there's a lot of moving parts, very similar KPIs and watching out for cost overruns and that sort of thing. But what do you see kind of as being uh, the crossover between what you do and somebody who's managing kind of technical projects? And are there things that just don't apply, between the two industries?
So it all goes back to kind of the basic building block that I use when I'm plugging in new systems for companies. It starts with this idea of who does what by when. And it's the most basic framework you can come up with to kind of run projects and clear up communication. But it's pretty much a foolproof way to start unsticking projects that have been stuck, or even tasks that are getting stuck. So I like to plug that in first and make sure it's really part of ingrained in the culture of a company, that's how their project managers treat every piece of communication, every piece of like goal setting and project planning comes down to who does what by when. And so that is industry agnostic. You can plug that in anywhere. I even use it in my personal life just to clear up communication, between my wife and I. So that way there's not this like, well, I thought you were doing that. It's like, no, I thought you were doing that. It's like, nope, I should have gone back
Yeah.
to the who does what by when. That way there was no mistake of like, oh, I was under the impression that you said you had that covered. And it's like, nope, who does what by when. That is the mantra, and that is what works. And then beyond that, that's when I can start to work with, IT tends to work in, and probably marketing too, to a certain extent, in sprints, right? You've got like a campaign, you've got a specific project or an iteration of a project. A lot of, especially since agile is such a common project methodology within technology spaces right now. Construction tends to work in that very traditional waterfall, like this, then this, then this. And like, you can't build the roof before you built the walls. You can't build the walls before you built the foundation. There is no like vertical slice of the project that you can take out and build on its own, like you could in like a coding situation or a technical infrastructure for IT. So but those sprints still happen in the who does what by when. So they kind of start at the same place, and then you branch out from there into kind of some of the more industry specific needs.
Nice. Yeah, for sure.
Hey, this is Rob Riggs, and I wanted to take just a second to tell you about Code Conspirators, our sponsor here. And we are a technology-focused performance marketing agency serving professional service firms. So that's legal, medical, financial, engineering. If you have to take a test to do what you do for a living, we help you grow your practice with websites and apps, software, and performance marketing. That's organic, paid ads, retargeting, conversion optimization. And we're also doing a whole host of things with CRM, AI, and automation that's been bringing our clients tremendous value. If you're curious at all, go to codeconspirators.com to learn more. Now back to the show.
And I'm wondering, so I've got a fantastic project management team, and I'm hoping they'll listen to this and get some benefit. But where do you got when you're looking at some of the KPIs and things like that? Where are you seeing kind of margin protection strategies coming into play? Specifically around to kind of who's managing, like how far down the chain does responsibility for project margin go, and what can you set in place from the beginning to make sure that projects are run cleanly and run profitably?
Sure. So it comes down to the initial project charter that you've built a project off of. You have to have kind of this contract between staff and between whoever you're working for or with, this idea of like, this is what the project is, just as much as what the project is not. If you lay out what it is not, it makes it very easy for a project manager to eventually come down and, the easiest way to bleed margin is in change orders, because you don't price yourself correctly in those cost changes, or it's really easy for somebody to be like, oh, I want to be a good person, and just say like, oh, we'll eat this. Well, if you eat too much, then you don't have anything to actually eat off of when you're done. And so I find that empowering project managers through that project charter to understand like, okay, here's the level of change or change requests that you're allowed to authorize for speed, because you can also bleed margin if you're not moving. If everything
Right.
comes to a stop while we wait for the CEO to make a call, well, that's cost of insurance, that's cost of overhead. Those are things that are not necessarily being reimbursed while you're sitting stuck on this project waiting for a decision from somebody over $500.
Right.
It's like if the project's a couple million and you're waiting for a decision on $500, there's where you're bleeding some margin.
Right.
So empowering those project managers to be able to trust that they're going to make a good decision, but also that they're going to be able to look at their own project budget, their own project schedule, and say, can I afford to do this? yes or no, whether it's to sit and wait for a decision or I need to make a call today kind of thing. That's where I'm trying to get the project management team up to speed so that senior leadership trusts their team to do what they need to do. Now, you still put guardrails up, right? Like if we've got some $50,000 or more change order coming in, probably want to have like the CFO at least, if not the CEO, take a pass at that and say like, yeah or no, like that's we're okay or we're not. Uh, but the day-to-day stuff, you really want to try to keep your senior leadership out of the weeds as much as possible so that they're not the bottleneck.
Sure. So there are those in probably many industries that will intentionally, they know what their costs are and they know where they need to come in and be profitable, but they're going to come in and be really competitive, counting on those change orders to make up that profit margin, right? When they know they're going to
Mm-hmm.
lose on the bid. How do you compete with people that are going to, come in either underbid or know that they're going to make their margin on the back end?
So I think that again comes down to making sure that the project management team is plugged in early to the project and that the charter is set in a way that everybody's on the same page of, again, what is this project? Well, this project is, we are bidding it tight. It's a very tight bid. We are expecting that. So we're coming in low. And then here are the things that we are alerting everybody to early, that we want to be on the lookout for this upsell or this change in order to try to make up some of the difference that we have.
Sure.
And so if the project managers are looking for that, then they know they're kind of green lit from the beginning. Like, okay, that situation is coming true. We're going to go ahead and act on it. We've already been given the prior authorization to just handle this. And so it comes out from the owner side is like, oh, these guys are on it. Like they're working through this. We had this come up and they're responding already. They're ready to go, rather than it feeling like, because every time you have to stop and have this lengthy discussion about a change, the owners start to grind on that and be like, are these guys just nickel and diming me? Like, you don't want to give them too much time to ruminate on the potential impacts of the change that they're asking for. You want to just
Right.
be responding to those situations. And so I think going into it with at least some idea, right? We can't plan for every possible event that could potentially
Yeah.
occur, but I think having a good idea of like in construction, I'll use that as an example. You've got the
Totally.
project plans that you're bidding against, so you know what's in the project. But if you're a competent builder, oftentimes you're going to see like, oh, they haven't accounted for XYZ. There's like 1,000 square feet of concrete here that's not clearly labeled, which is probably going to be a change order. So we know going in, when we get to this point, this is when we're going to propose a potential change in order to account for whatever the plan, the gaps in the plans that we're finding. And that happens all the time. But I see companies that they get to it and then it's like the owner's got to get dragged out of the office and come to
Yeah.
have a meeting. We got to talk about it. And it's like, why isn't the project manager just ready to go with all of this information? Like, you guys
Right.
knew you saw this in the bid documents. Like, it was pretty obvious this was a gap.
Sure. Fantastic. So there are a lot of so we work with a lot of like architectural engineering companies, and but also we're very technical, and we work with a lot of technical service providers. What are some common project management mistakes that you see across the board in professional services that would be easy to clean up if somebody just had caught it in time?
The number one thing is project managers burying stuff because they feel like it'll just go away, or they're
Yeah.
afraid to take that up the chain. There can't be, when it comes to project management, there can't be a culture of fear. If people are afraid to bring up the idea of like, well, we missed something, that's probably the worst case scenario, is like, we missed something and now we're going to have to eat this. You've got project managers that'll try to bury that, and it's like, that's not healthy. Like, it isn't going to
Yeah.
just go away. It's accept it. We move on. Let's figure out how we get on from here. Kind of thing is kind of how the attitude has to be. Beyond that, you'll see a lot of like overly or unnecessarily aggressive scheduling. It's like,
Sure.
if it doesn't have to be done today, give yourself a little bit of float, because you may need it later in the project when you get into some of the more technical, weedy type tasks. It's like, you never know. Like, somebody gets the flu and can't show up to work for a week. What do you do? Like, if your schedule is that tight and that you can't even accommodate like a key staff member being out sick or something coming up with their kids or something like that, it's like, then you're way too tight on your schedule, and that's an easy fix because it's usually self-imposed, you
Right.
know.
That's something I've, again, past project managers that we've had on the team is trying to drill into them. Like, don't be optimistic with timeline. Sure, we can probably get that done in a week, but give yourself a little bit of extra time, because something is going to come up every time. You're going to bump into something that's unexpected. In your case, you're going to be digging a hole, and who knew there was an entire septic system down there or something where
Oh
you
yeah.
surprised by you, right? Interesting. So fun. What is, so I know we're kind of coming up on time, but the what is something that we haven't covered yet that you feel will just be beneficial to somebody in the $2 to $30 million space, that they're scrappy, but and they're trying to grow. What do they need to be conscious of as they're trying to get bigger projects, bigger scale to help them help their company grow?
The first thing I'd have them look at is what are their systems that they have in place right now, because those systems are honestly going to have to change as they scale. What got you to where you are today is not what's going to get you to that next level in a year or 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
And so it's really important that you're looking ahead before you've won all that work and trying to say, like, what systems do I need to have in place ahead of time to be successful? Because the worst thing that can happen is you win a lot of work. You've kind of reached that next level. You go from, the $2 to $30 million range. Now you're in the 40 to say 80, maybe even $100 million range. And now you're literally being crushed by the work that you have coming in. Your quality is going to start to slip. Your reputation slips as a result. And that can very quickly start this death spiral where you end up bankrupt despite having tons of work. It's kind of like a fish drowning in water. Like, how does that, how would that even happen? But if you don't have the systems in place to take care of that work and be as responsive as what got you, oftentimes those small scrappy firms, they build this great reputation, right? They've got this
Yeah.
great reputation because they're so responsive, they're so lean, they're so agile. And then they start to win work and they're like, well, we are taxing our project managers to a point that they can't keep up anymore. And it's like, okay, well, you can't just keep adding bodies to the mix, because eventually you've got a team of, 10 project managers, and who's leading the show? Well, if it's still the CEO or the chief
Right.
operating officer, now that person's way overburdened and they're not moving the needle on the strategic initiatives that they need to handle. And so that's, again, I'd caution people to look at their systems, look at their personnel, consider adding the fractional executives where needed, whether that's the CFO, whether that's somebody like myself as a project management oversight, whether it's another area entirely. Fractional CEOs are really taking off right now. So it's like, if you're a solopreneur and you're just looking for an operator, definitely consider maybe the fractional CEO route, but it's something
Yeah.
that you got to start building those. And it's kind of a nice baby step into scale, because you can
Right.
quickly cut ties with it if you need to. You can use it to bridge the gap. It's going to take easily 6 months to a year to hire an executive in and get a quality hire into position, let alone paying that person the big bucks to do what they do. And so it's definitely something I have somebody consider is, what does my staffing look like, and how can I maybe do this in as lean a way as possible?
Nice. Yeah. And you've got a pretty cool assessment that somebody can go check out and kind of figure out kind of where their project might be stuck, or how healthy are their projects. Do you want to give a just a shout out to that?
Sure. So if you go to creatapult.com/products/health, that will take you to my 5-point PMO health checkup that tells you basically how ready or not you are to deliver on your projects and your goals. And I would encourage people to reach out, join the email list from that. And if you've got questions like, hey, I'm showing red or amber all across the board on this thing, like I
Yeah.
need some help, reach out. Let's see what we can do. Like, I'm happy to help. Like, I don't want to see anybody struggling because of their project management or feeling like, oh gosh, like I'll never be able to afford help or I won't be able to get out of this. It's like, let's not worry about that. Let's just get you unstuck first. Let's get you out of
Yeah.
the mud and get you moving, and then we'll see what you need to do from there.
Kris Grey, I couldn't have said it better. I appreciate you being on today. Thank you so much. And yeah, can't wait to see where things go for you in the future.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the time.
All right, that was Kris Grey, Fractional Director of Project Management Oversight, which is a lengthy title, but it involves so many things that keep businesses often, probably like yours, moving forward. And so a couple of takeaways from the conversation. First, if you can't clearly answer who does what by when on every project, you're gambling with your margins. And Kris's framework is simple. Most firms don't implement it, though, and it costs them 15 to 30% in margin. Second, buying software doesn't fix broken processes. You got to figure out your processes first before you automate. And we see this all the time with professional service firms. They invest in tools and they don't have the systems in place in order to use them effectively. Fix your process first, then add tech on top. And then third, client-facing visibility is not optional anymore. If your clients can't see project progress, then they assume nothing is happening, and communication is key. Even conservatively, like conservative estimate, like we talked about, don't estimate optimistically, estimate conservatively, and because you'd much rather make your client happy by delivering early than pitching optimistically and then having to ask for more time or budget. So if you're running a project-based business, architecture, engineering, consulting, whatever, and you know your operations need tightening, reach out to Kris. And if you need the digital infrastructure to support those operations, client portals, intake systems, automated follow-ups, that's what we do at Code Conspirators all day, every day. Would love to have a conversation to help you scale when you're at a place that you've got those systems or processes nailed down. We add systems on top of that to help you go further faster. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time.